Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, September 15, 2020. As always, we're coming live from the Sirius Star System studios right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope all is well with everybody. So this past weekend, if I am out of breath already and my body is worn out because this past weekend, I got to give a special thanks out to Caleb and Chris who really helped me. We had to take off as much paint off the driveway as possible. It turned out to be a 3-day project. We had to rent pressure washers. I had a pressure washer. It wasn't good enough. And we still didn't get, I didn't realize how hard it was to take paint off a driveway. Even though we dropped a bunch of acid on it and everything, it just wasn't going to be. So I want to thank Caleb and Chris out there for all their hard work and spending 3 days with me. And yeah, that's a lot of time with me. You know, I mean, most people handle me in small dosage, but that's the way it is. But anyways, it's still a total mess and I still got to paint it, and I'm not even thinking about that. But this week not this week, the first week of October, the first weekend, October 3rd or 4th, I'm not sure which one we're going to do. But anyways, that first weekend, we are having another homeless clothes drive. So please, everybody, please get together your clothes, your blankets, your shoes, your hygiene products, backpacks, and anything that you can donate that's of use to people who are in need as well. We also take teen stuff for the families in need that we also donate to as well. But yeah, it's going to be the weekend of October 3rd and 4th. So I'm not sure what particular date, but please get it into us. And always you can donate if you don't have any clothes. Feel free to give some money at our GoFundMe account, and Caleb will have that link on Facebook or any of the social medias. So we have a new blog out. It's called Changing the World. And we talk about random acts of kindness this blog, and just kind of the idea how people think it's a really hard concept to change the world, and that we have to have a lot of money and be famous and do all sorts of things in order to change the world, and you don't have to. And simple random acts of kindness will do it. And even today, normally I don't usually go to like fast food or Burger King or anything like that, but for some reason, something was drawing me there today. And so I drove there for a bit. And as soon as I drove into the parking lot, all of a sudden there was a guy there, and he was a homeless man. And you could tell he was out with his drink. He probably didn't have anything more. And he kind of stood there and looked at me for a second. And I just let him pass. And when I drove around, I ordered him some food. And I came back around and I gave it. And he was just so happy. His day was lit up. Like before I drove up, you could see how sad he looked, and just kind of, you know, and that's what I'm talking about. Changing the world is not hard. It doesn't take millions of dollars. It doesn't take you to be famous. All it takes is just random acts of kindness to change the world. And I guarantee you, his day has just been a lot happier. And you know, we just never see the effects that our actions have on each other. So just because we don't see it, and we don't get the praises or thanks, because that's not why we're changing the world. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean it has any action to it. So, all right, guys, as always, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, and LinkedIn. And Caleb will be on all of those on your chat. So if you have any questions, chat them up on there, and he'll relay the questions to me, and we'll answer them right on the phone show. And also remember, all the replays are on iHeart, Pandora, Spotify, iTunes, all that. You guys know it by now, so I don't have to keep saying it. So, all right, guys, let's get into the first let's get into a recap of last week, because last week we talked about the dimensional reality of life, and we were kind of going into dimensions, and we were talking about how dimensions are nothing more than frequencies of consciousness, and they are shared realms. We interact with all the dimensions at once. They're not separate. A lot of times we like to think as the multiverse and dimensions as everything separated, but really they're all frequencies that are meshed into each other, and they're just different frequencies. So if you're a lower vibration as us in the third dimension, we can't see other dimensions because we are a very dense low vibration. And there are laws that govern the dimensions, and that's why when people say that, and I said this last week, that's why when people say, oh, there's demons out there and they scratched, and I saw on this TV show that they attacked this person, it is a bunch of bull, because it doesn't happen like that. There are laws. This world, this physical world would be such chaos. It would be such chaos if that was able to happen, and it just doesn't work like that. So there are laws that govern all the dimensions, and including ours. As we know, we have many restrictions, we have many laws, but they're all working at the same time. They're all going with each other, and a lot of times we could be walking through dimensions as we say. I could be sitting in probably maybe 5 billion different dimensions right now that other people experience as their realities and everything, and I'm not doing anything, but in my dimension, in my reality, I'm in my studio. And we have to look at it like that. And that's why a lot of times when I always say that, hey, well, have you ever been staring at something, like watching TV, and out the corner of your eye you see something walk by or move or anything, or you're walking through the forest and you thought you saw an animal or someone, and that's because your eye was not focused on a very third dimensional low vibration. It was actually you're seeking out higher vibration, and at that moment you were able to tune in subconsciously to a higher vibration. And so that's what happens a lot of times with us. We just have to be able to raise our vibrations if we want to connect to these vibrations, to these other dimensions or other beings in other dimensions. Then we must be able to raise our vibrations. And whether you believe in religion and you call them angels or God or Jesus, or you believe in spirituality and you say Buddha, spirit guides, and or whatever, and that all these beings and all these ideas that we have, yes, they are higher forms of beings with higher vibrations, and we must raise ourselves to be able to connect to any of that. So the third dimension, as I said before, is a very physical, dense, and we have to learn to graduate to a higher consciousness. This is our battlefield, everybody. That's why we think of life and Earth is so toxic and so chaotic, because this is where we come to learn. This is our schooling. This is, and I compare it to just that. When you go to school, you go there, you learn math, English, science, literature, psychology, history, everything. And that's the same here. We're learning life. Every time we come in here, every time we incarnate, this is our battlefield so that we learn to raise our vibration to a higher vibration. And that's why there's so many people that get stuck in anger and pain and suffering, because they have to learn to work through that in order to raise their vibration. And that's why so many of us have such hard time, and why we have so many conflicting ideas, and why a lot of times people who don't understand a higher way of thinking, they always put people off as they're kooky or that's their opinion. They kind of push it off, and then they're offended when you start talking about your way of thinking, because they haven't learned through pain and suffering. They haven't learned duality yet. They haven't learned reflection. They haven't learned perspective. And the younger the soul here in dimensions, the more they hold on to these ideas that are so hardcore, and they have to learn to grow. You can't, like I said, you can't teach a first grade child eighth grade math or high school things you would learn in high school, because they haven't gone through the following grades and matured in order to get that. And so all different souls are all different age periods in their evolution, and we have to respect that, and we have to understand and see and validate. And that's why we can't connect. That's why someone who is in a lower vibration vibration can't connect to someone in a higher vibration. That's why you should never try to change someone in a low vibration, because they have to learn to work through it, as you did too. But one of the most important things is that's why we see this last week as well, why we see everything as so individual. Remember, we see everything so individually as and separate, that I'm one and you're two and my mom's three, my dad's four, my sister's five, etc., because that's how we see when we're split and fractal. We see things as separate. We don't understand that we're all one. We're all connected. Even the people that a lot of times say that we're all one don't really truly have an understanding of one, because you can tell by the way they react to things. If they say that they're spiritual and they're all one, but their way is correct, or they're fighting with other people, well, then they're still an individual. They're still in separate. They haven't seen. And that's why most people in this world we see as only one God or one religion, one spirituality. There's space and time are separate, life events are separate, and we don't see anything that's multidimensional. We don't see it. We don't understand that there's other perspectives, that when we're fighting with something, that's a reflection within ourselves. When we're growing and we're transforming through ourselves, we're actually working on a multidimensional mindset, because we're growing, we're expanding, because that's who we are in consciousness. And diversity in life doesn't exist. It's non-existent. So when I look back and I say, wow, this is happening, and when someone says, wow, this is happening, I don't know, like even the COVID, and some people are so hung up on wear your mask and do this and follow orders or you're going to kill us all. That's because they see things, they're younger souls that see things in a non-existent, non-diverse way of life. And the younger the soul, the lower the frequency, the less knowledge they're able to see. And that's why duality is uncomfortable for a lot of people, because duality makes us look at ourselves. It says, hey, this is who I am as a soul, as I'm acting out, but then all of a sudden, if I split myself, who am I? And with a lot of work, we really don't want to see who we are a lot of times. We like to think and create this illusion of who we are, and duality makes us really uncomfortable. That's why we don't like confrontation, or that's why a lot of people don't like criticism or being pointed out. Hey, you know what, you really do this all the time and it bothers me, and then they take offense to it, because that's duality. It's saying, hey, you got to grow. We all do. And that's one of the hardest things to understand, is because the awareness has to grow with everybody. We have to be able to grow with awareness by using duality and reflection in order to expand our consciousness. So when we have this idea of little awareness and zero connection or little connection, then we can't have the oneness, because remember, as I said before, we split from unity. Remember, we're one, and we split from unity to learn so that we're able to regain the non-duality form, because that's our goal, is to come here split and for our major life lessons to happen. And I know we talked about, well, Miss Raina, why do people get raped and murdered and have some awful die of cancer and all that? Because that's the reason why. They have to split from who they are in unity to learn who they are during this lifetime, so that they can regain their non-duality through their major life lessons. And that's one of the hardest things to do. Remember, in the third dimension, it is always about past, present, and future. We see things. This is an illusion that's created by linear time. It allows us to judge time, for us to judge sequences, for us to judge experiences, us to judge one another. It allows comparison as an experience, like I just said, and it allows the emotion. It allows emotion, and that's one of the reasons why when I said earlier that the third dimension was so highly sought out, because we have emotion here. We're able, and you're going to say, well, Miss Raina, but you told me emotion isn't real. And you're right, it isn't real. But what I'm saying is the frequency of the way we understand is what we call emotion, and that's what we have here. We have a way of reading frequency and interpreting things, and we call it emotion here on life, and that's how we gather information. Unfortunately, for so many of us, because we're split and fractaled, that that we take it personally and we get caught up in all these things. And the third dimension is where we are able to have goals and set goals and be able to experience those goals and accomplishments that we want. But a lot of times we get caught up in our fears and worries. So now that I've recapped the first thing, I know I kind of went a little fast there today because I got a lot of information to go. I always do for you guys. But let's talk about the first dimension and some of the other ones. The first and last dimension and that what are connected. Everything is connected. Remember, it's like a circle. Everything is circular. Everything is when we split off. Yes, they may run in lines, but eventually we have to come back to one. We have to build that circle again. And so the first dimension is what? The I am. It is where we all began from. It is who we are in truth. We look at ourselves and we say, I am. And this was the first concept that was created by what we would call a God, a universe, which is us. We are I am. There is no separation. There is no outside source. We are that idea of that. And so when we asked ourselves, when we were conscious and we were sitting there with our consciousness, we said, I am. Oh, I am this. And then all of a sudden we said, what else could I be? What's another possibility? If I'm this, what's my opposite? And then we split, and the second dimension was born, and that is duality. That is reflective. It is the polar opposite of us, and that's why we think of we have these concepts of good and bad and light and dark as evil and good and that, but it's not really. It's my polar opposite. In order for us to create a circle, we have to have an opposite side. And so we created this through duality and through reflection to gain perspective. If I'm this person and I can split into another dimension, I can split into another self to gain another perspective, well, that's my opposite. That's what else I can be. And then all of a sudden we sat there and we started thinking, and we sat there and we said, well, if I see this other side of me, what else can I be? What are all the possibilities that I can be? What is everything? What are all if I split myself into a billion pieces, what can I be? And that's when the third and fourth and fifth dimensions were created, because these dimensions were created for all the possibilities. And that's why the third and fourth dimension are so closely related, because this is why life is. It is, well, if I want to act these parts out, where can I act this out? I need a stage. I need something to act this out. What can I be? Who can I be? How can I experience? I can experience the best of the best and the worst of the worst, the most painful experiences and the most happy and joyous experience. I can experience everything that I can be. And thus is life. So there is no external God. There is no external universe. There is nothing like that. You are God. You are universe. You are everything in one, because you are I am. And the reason why you can't understand that, or maybe you have a hard time grasping that concept, is because you're still split. You don't see duality. In our society, we've purposely created conditioning. We've purposely created all these lies in order to keep us trapped, because each and every lifetime we have to find our way out. The whole goal is to find who we are in truth and become and accept who we are and gain perspective through all of our experience. That's power. That's what we're here for. And there's no mystery to life. Hey, guess what? Life solved. The great question to life has just been solved. It is not that difficult to solve if you open up your mind and expand your consciousness, because that's what it really is. All right, guys, we're going to take a break, and we will be right back from these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. 318-0006 or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. So, as we were talking about the third and fourth dimension, that is why life is happening. That is why we are here. That is why everything is going on, because we are an extension of self. We are an extension of I am. And yes, absolutely. That's why the business we have is called I Am Evolution, because we are. I am evolution. We are evolution in its primal force. We are evolution in its greatest glory, and we expand everywhere and anywhere at once. And it is the greatest idea that you can possibly consume in your mind in order to be able to understand that. So the third dimension, as I said, is a very physical, very physical, low dense, low vibration type of energy. This is why we have a physical body, why we have limited consciousness, because we're trying to attain conscious awareness through our experiences. So I tell you, for those of you that are having problems in life, that are having really big emotional problems, maybe you've been really hurt, screwed over, been betrayed, cheated on, divorced, whatever the problem is, situation, and that you have to understand that you are trying to gain conscious awareness through your experience. Do not take this personal. Do not take your experiences personal. Remember that everything that happened in your life has meant to happen to you because you wrote it in your blueprint so that you can experience it, so that you can attain conscious awareness. Remember that this is our practice area. This is where we learn through pain and suffering to learn I am. We have to learn I am. I am what? I am power. I am everything and anything, but yet I am nothing. I am masculine. I am feminine. I am nothing. I am everything all at once, and I am nothing but pitch black. You are every experience that you can possibly be, and that's the power, the intention that we learn. We have to learn to create. We are master creators, and we have to learn to shift from chaos to I am, and that's the hardest part because we're such emotional. We're so raw. We think that life is all about having having anger and emotions, and life is supposed to be this picture perfect, and at the end we get a treat by going to this place called heaven or the Summerlands or the other side or whatever. But it's not like that. You have to understand that these shifts in consciousness, you can have that here. You can do that. I post stuff like that every single day on social media so that everybody can see, hey, I used to deal with depression, bipolar, anxiety, stress, all that stuff. You can ask anyone that knows me. And when I shifted back to who I was and realigned myself, and I stopped fighting who I was and the work that I had to do, because it was a lot of pressure and I wasn't sure if I wanted it. Once I shift from that chaos to I am, everything changed around. I became powerful. I became creative. I became all these different things, and I became myself, more importantly, because we are beings of strength. So one of the things that people ask me is they're always like, they always talk about karma, and they're always like, well, Miss Raina, why is karma only a third dimensional idea? And I say, well, karma is a third dimensional idea because it's meant to implement lessons. It is meant to help fulfill your life plan, your blueprint. So it links your life lessons. So say like if I had a lesson when I was in ancient Egypt, and I first started coming here way before even Egypt was formed. But let's just take ancient Egypt. When I first started incarnating on this planet, we started to have lessons here. And at one time, I was a lot younger. And so these lessons were implemented, and maybe I couldn't finish them because I didn't have the awareness that I would have now. It's similar to being older. When you're a child, you may not understand something, like why your parents seem seem mean to you all the time or why they're disciplining you. But once you get older, you say, wow, my parents were amazing. They really stuck. I feel bad for them. I was a really troubled kid. You may say that because now you're mature and you get it. Hence, it linked back and you said, oh, I get why all that was happening. That's the same thing with karma. Karma is not a punishment. It is not a God or a universe punishing you. It is not keeping score. It's not saying, well, Sally did this, I'm going to get her back. Instant karma. It does not do that. I don't care how many videos you've seen of instant karma. I don't care how many experiences or people have told you stories of instant karma and karma's out to get you. It is not a punishment. It is not out to get you. It doesn't fix right and wrongs. It is not about that or good and bad. It is about linking life lessons from past experiences to current situations so that you can gain a perspective, a full perspective. Remember, we want that circle. We want to create that circle and align ourselves so that we become whole. We don't want to see just duality and say, okay, well, this is the other half. Eventually, we want to see so many perspectives that we create that circle and become whole again. And that's how we evolve through understanding. So the next time you hear somebody or you say, oh, well, karma's going to get them, stop yourself, because that's not true. Karma is not going to punish bad people in your mind. It's not going to punish people that do wrong. It's not that. That is your ego that is saying, well, you know what, I need justification, because the ego needs justification. I need to be justified in what I do, so that person better be punished or else. And that's what's really it's going on. Your brain is throwing a tantrum, and like a little child does, and that's what the ego does. So if you had compassion, if you were evolving and you were understanding, you wouldn't wish karma to beat someone up or to get their comeuppance. You wouldn't wish a God or a universe to punish them, because you would understand that those people are doing what they're doing because they have to learn lessons. They have to evolve. And so while we may judge it, because remember, younger souls judge ideas as good or bad, right or wrong, because they don't understand yet. And so once you evolve and you understand, well, wait a minute, this isn't good or bad. This soul is doing this, as painful and messed up as it is. This soul, or these souls that have contracts together, are doing this so they all evolve. And they help evolve other people around them. And that's why karma is the way it is. That's the truth behind karma. One of the other things that I think is important to mention is that I think that a lot of people say, well, Miss Raina, you always talk about individual universes, that each person is an individual universe. And absolutely. If on Earth, if we have 7.8 billion people, that's a lot. That's a lot of people. That really is. And you have, so in Earth alone, I'm not talking about other planets, other galaxies, other beings and stuff. I'm just talking about Earth. When you have 7.8 billion people, you have 7.8 billion universes all wrapped up in one. You have 7.8 billion realities going all on at once, but they're all bounded by laws. Remember how I said all the dimensions have laws? Well, the third dimension has a lot of laws. It's very strict, very condensed, and it makes you, and we all have to follow it. When we incarnate here, and that we have to understand that we have certain laws to feel. So we can't just decide that we're going to jump off a cliff, bounce off the ground, and survive, because that's not the laws that govern the physical dimension. And so we all have to agree to these laws, no matter how old we are. But we still have individual universes. Even though we're all one, when we come here, remember, we're split. And so, yes, we see, even though we still have that one connection, we're still split so that we can gain different perspectives. So right now, I have a different perspective doing this show than you have a different perspective watching this show. You're seeing things and hearing things that maybe I'm saying and understanding them a different way based on your evolution. And that's the issue that we have with everybody. That's why we fight all the time. That's why we have I like the coronavirus or politics going on here in America, and people are going nuts to the point where I just shut down social media. I post what I need to post and I don't turn it on, because everybody's experiencing all these different universes, and they're allowing their perception based on their limited experience to be overtaken by anger and pain and suffering. And so I always tell people that if I had 100 people or 1,000 people lined up and I asked them all to close their eyes and I gave them a piece of paper and I said, okay, everybody, fold the right corner to the left side or fold it across and then fold it this way and fold it that way, there would be about 1,000 different ways people folded it. Why? Because based on your, like I said, based on your evolution, based on your, whether it's limited experience or conscious experience, based on that is how you're going to interpret what I'm saying. And that's why I always say with these shows, listen to them over and over. You will always hear something new. There's always something, because I may say something that you may not understand at a certain point, and then through your evolution, all of a sudden you re-listen and say, oh my God, I get what she was saying. And that's growth. We have to constantly grow that way. But with the paper, it's the same way. Hey, 1,000 people, 1,000 different ways, because based on their evolution and how they see things, how they interpret things, and how they handle things. This is why it takes an older soul to understand that you are not supposed to judge others, that you are supposed to allow people to be themselves and to grow so that they can grow themselves. Because if you let them grow and you allow them to grow and not judge them and be like, oh, what are they, stupid? Well, oh, come on, man, that's a bad person. How horrible. Well, you did such a horrible thing. You should be shot to death. If you can come with compassion, then you allow those beings to come with compassion too. You allow them to grow through compassion as well. And that's one of the hardest things to do, is not judge. I watch a lot of like prison stuff and murder stuff and like ID channel and stuff. And one of the things that I always do with every case is I literally feel for these people. They can do the most horrific things, and the parents and friends could be screaming, I hope you die. I hope you die a horrible death. Let me do what I did. Let me do to you what you did to my daughter or my son or whoever. And as bad as it was, I still see everybody, the parents, the person who went through the horrific event, the people that did it, and that I see everyone with compassion. I see everyone, and I feel for them, because it is such a rough time going through horrific lives, going through such traumatic things, and you have to show love to that understanding. You have to be able to show that in order to get through. So one of the things I also notice is that people always bring up, and they always say, well, Miss Raina, you talk about dimensions, and this was actually brought up even though we've already had this plan. They're always like, well, maybe life is like a dream. Maybe is the thought process, is that the conscious mind, or is it a dream? Maybe when maybe that our spirit is asleep, and right now what we're experiencing is just a dream of our spirit. And I entertain it, because, hey, that is a deeper way of thinking, and I would never shut that down. And my answer is always the same. Well, yes and no. Yes, it is definitely a conscious mind. It is definitely created by conscious thought, because we are conscious thought. That's why this body, that's why the things around me don't really exist other than just form of energy, and they can be broken down and transformed into anything at any time, and life is just what it is because of that idea. But at the same time, no. What I mean by that is, no, as our spirit is encompassing our body, it houses the soul, and our soul drives the vehicle. So my soul is driving my arms right now. It's saying, move up, speak, Miss Raina, speak, over and over. And our spirit encompasses that, and our spirit allows us to control and dictate from a third-party perspective what's going on. It has the blueprint. It understands that. And so it's not asleep. We're not asleep. It's not when we die, all of a sudden we wake up, and all of a sudden we're like, wow, like we do when we're sleeping. We don't wake up, and all of a sudden it's a dream, and we're like, wow, that was crazy. I'm glad that wasn't real. So no, it's not like that. But in the conscious sense, yes, we do create these lives. We do create this reality all on conscious thought. It's like a really weird concept, and maybe some of you understand it, maybe some of you don't. But we create these ideas. We create this energy, this body, this what's going on right now, all by conscious thought. Because remember, we are creators. We are master creators. We can create anything that we want at the drop of a hat. And when you get back to the seventh dimension, what we call heaven or the other side or the Summerland, whatever your belief system is, that is the dimension where we think, oh, we're running in fields, we're happy. Yes, it is. But these other dimensions as well is all creation. We can create things as we want to go and be able to do that. So yes, so remember that you are just as powerful here as you are there. So even though we have limited perspective and we can't just snap our fingers and be 10 foot tall and change certain physical laws, you still have the power to be able to create what you want. And it's sad because many people don't understand that concept. You see them fighting over politics. Right now, it's horrible. I don't even want to go on social media because everyone's fighting and everyone thinks that they're right and everyone who doesn't agree with them is wrong. And what kind of world are we? But yet you still have to have compassion because they're going through that. People in pain, people in anger, and people in chaos, you have to learn compassion for them. It is a very tough life. And hey, every single one of us goes through those periods, so we cannot judge each other for that. But so on that idea, I want you guys to understand that. Remember that it's not like we're falling asleep like we do at night, have a horrible nightmare, and then wake up and be like, wow, I'm so glad that wasn't a real thing. It is a real thing, but not in that sense. Duality, getting back to duality, remember we have to be able to use duality to come back to one. Because remember how I talked about it a little bit, how we use our experiences and through duality, through being split and everything to do that. So remember that when we're dealing with the third dimension and we're understanding that suffering is not one. So when people are suffering, they're purposely keeping themselves split because they have to learn eventually, whether it's this lifetime, 10 lifetimes, 1,000 lifetimes from now, eventually they're going to say, you know what? I just can't take this suffering anymore. I'm done with it. I have to let it go. I have to be able to find myself. And that's why no matter how many things I say, no matter how many shows I do, a lot of people won't connect to it because they don't want to take on the responsibility. In the third dimension, you have to use duality. You have to take on the responsibility to see yourself in order to gain that oneness. When you come here and you're split, you're going to feel separated because you're disconnected from the universe's complexities. You're disconnected. You're isolated yourself purposely in your own world. You're supposed to be like that. That's why we can't see the other side. That's why we can't feel when someone passes away and everyone's like, oh, I don't feel my husband or my wife or my children or whoever passes away. I don't feel them. They're gone. Are they okay? Of course they are. You can't feel them because you're purposely disconnected from that. In order for us to fulfill our blueprints, we have to be disconnected from everything else. Because if we had these powerful connections to the other side, we would be able to see everything that's in front of us. Just like I said last week, if we knew the outcome of what was going on in our life, we would avoid it because we would say, hey, this is too powerful. This is painful. I don't want to go through this, so let's avoid it. And if we had all these, every single one of us was connected to our guides and angels and beings and all these different things that we believe in that help us, and they were telling us everything. Oh, don't do this, go do that. We would never learn anything. And so you have to be able to understand that it's our responsibility to find that connection through isolation. That's why the most knowledgeable people in the world meditate, especially like in China or Thailand or whatever. These monks or these people go up in mountains with water and food or live off the land, and they isolate themselves because the only way to connect to yourself after the split is through self of isolation, so that we're able to gain that perspective. Because once we're able to do the solitude, once we're able to see our own isolation, we're able to see perspective once we accept the responsibility of what we're doing. Chaos happens in this world, people. We are not going to avoid it. As long as humanity is here, there will be chaos. This place is not meant to be heaven on earth for 99.9% of the people. It's only when we find out that it is through us, by using duality, by using perspective to see ourselves, that we learn to be whole again, that this place can be a wonderful place. And it can. It really, really can. I think people underestimate life. I think people underestimate the power of changing and the power of what we can do here. All right, guys, we'll be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. If you're just joining us, this is the last half, or the last third, I should say, of Transcendental Transformation, and we are talking about dimensional and dimensions and reality from continuation. Now I want to talk about dreams, because I mentioned a lot of people bring up dreams all the time. Dreams are very important to us, and a lot of times people are always asking me, and one of the best things I tell people is that if you want to learn about who you are and what's going on in life, then start learning how to interpret your dreams, because they have so much valuable information. They tell such stories about who we are, what we're going through, and it's our subconscious mind. It's our subconscious telling us, or our subconscious telling our conscious mind, I should say, what we have to work on. Dreams aren't these mysterious ideas. If you pay attention to your dreams are simple. They are what we need to work on. Most of the time, it's what we haven't dealt with. There are so many of us that hate to admit things in life. We hate to admit how we feel. We hate to admit that we're in anger or pain or suffering, that we've been hurt by somebody, or we don't want to see the truth of the reality. Maybe that we think we're dating someone that's magical and they're just a horrible person, or maybe we think we found the dream job and we're letting people walk all over us, like our bosses and stuff, because we want to hold on to an idea. The dreams are nothing more than our subconscious telling us, hey, Miss Raina, you got to work on this. You're not paying attention to this. You got to understand this. You're not understanding. You're refusing to look at something in life, or it's the way or a lot of times it's the truth of the situation. We can only deny stuff in our conscious mind. The wonderful thing about our conscious mind is we can control it. We can control whether or not we want to think about something, whether we don't want to think about something, whether we want to lie to it, whether we want to pretend like it didn't happen, etc. But when we refuse to see the situation, that can only happen for so long. And our soul can refuse it, but our spirit says, no, Miss Raina, you're not paying attention, you're not looking, you're not dealing with this. We need to deal with this. So when we put our head on our Tempur-Pedic pillow and we close our eyes and we fall asleep, we have dreams. And these dreams, as I said, are the reflection of our life. They are a reflection of how we truly feel, what we're truly thinking. Before the internet, or I shouldn't say that because that's gonna make me sound really old, and I'm not that well. Yeah, we won't get into that. But I always used to have dream books. I used to study dreams because I always found dreams fascinating. Why did I dream that? Why did I dream certain things? Why did my mind create this thing that I can't understand and I don't know what it means, but I had an emotional reaction to it, or I felt a certain way, or I felt relief after something, or after I dreamt about something, all of a sudden I was over it. It didn't bother anymore. Why was this happening? And I strongly suggest, if you are having trouble in your life and you're having weird, crazy, chaotic dreams, or you're having the same repetitive dreams, get a dream book, get a dream dictionary. And even on the internet, I know on the internet you could Google things and say, oh, I dreamt of a house burning. What does that mean in a dream? Or house burning in a dream. And all of a sudden, probably 5,000 dream pages will come up saying, oh, what house on fire means in a dream. And it'll tell you. And you can piece together what your dreams are telling you in a story. And then you can work on stuff. You can say, wow, my subconscious, what we call our higher self, but it's really us and our spirit. And it's really knowing what's going on, what we refuse to do. Or you can continue to refuse and pay attention and keep associating with those dreams, because those dreams will not go away. Some people ask and say, well, you know what, I had this dream and I think it's a message from the other side, or I saw my dad or I saw my mom and during this dream, and I was wondering, is it a message? Well, it could possibly be. Some dreams are nothing more than what's going on in your life. Some dreams are messages from people who are passed on, that are trying to communicate with you, that are just letting you know that they're okay, and maybe they're there to help you with something or an idea. Or sometimes they're there sometimes dreams will tell you something's going to happen. There are people that have dreams that see what we call the future, and a lot of times that will happen. So in psychology, I love psychology, even though I've never really taken it. I love psychology in that sense. So a lot of psychologists believe that it's a consolidation of your memories and your moods. So when you're having a dream and you're doing this, and I agree with this actually 100%, because it's taking your memories for the day or for the week or whatever, and your moods and stuff, and it's trying to put them in pieces. Because remember, the conscious mind has to be able to figure out what's going on, because it likes order. It wants order. It wants to be able to see things and do things like that. It's almost similar. It loves reorganizing everything and putting it neatly. And it's similar to defragging a hard drive. When you have a Windows unit, or even Apple, I think Apple does it. I really don't use that. But on Windows units, I know that files get scattered all around, your computer starts acting slow, and then all of a sudden you defrag it and it puts all the pieces back neatly fixed, and all of a sudden your computer runs better. Well, that's the way your brain works as well. It says, hey, all this information, I'm going to go to sleep, I'm going to understand it, and this is on a physical level of the third dimension. And I'm going to put all these pieces together so that I can understand what's going on, and I can understand my moods and regulation and help process. It's similar to having a mini therapist each night. You really should enjoy your dreams, even if they're chaotic, for a little while. I mean, when I was going through a chaotic period, I think I had a nightmare every single night of my life, probably for about 10, 15 years of my life. It was constant. And I used to hate going to sleep, because when I was dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts and tendencies and everything, and then all of a sudden I would go to bed, I never got a break, so I hated that. And then once Lori was like, look at your dreams, you know this, you know this, why are you, like, she would wonder, like, why am I rejecting so much knowledge, why I have this in me. And once I said, okay, fine, I'm gonna open up and see who I am. All of a sudden, all this information came, and I started looking at how helpful my dreams were. And yes, they are like a mini therapist. For those of you who say, well, I can't afford to go to a therapist, you can kind of help yourself out by analyzing your dreams, because your dreams will help you out. Now, I'm not saying by any means that to substitute this for a therapist, stop seeing your therapist or stop taking medication. I'm absolutely not saying that. Continue to see your therapist, medication, etc. But your dreams will help you out, especially when dealing with everything. And one of the things that people ask me is, why are dreams so weird? Why are dreams so chaotic? Why is it so? Well, that's because it's an interdimensional type of idea. It's usually, our dreams usually come from the fourth dimension, and it's our conscious. And the reason why they're so weird is because, remember, in the third dimension we have a lot of laws here, a lot of strict laws, and our brain thinks a certain way. And so when our soul is interdimensional into the fourth dimension, and we're working on ourselves, we have a hard time defragmenting and putting the pieces together, because to us over here in the third dimension, it doesn't make sense. So they seem really weird. So for example, if and the fourth dimension is very abstract. I want to put that. It's very abstract. So if you're an artist and you like creative, or you go to an art gallery and you see abstract, it has all this, it really doesn't make sense, but it's beautiful. That's what I'm talking about. So at one time you could be, say like you're dreaming, and all of a sudden you're driving in your car, or someone else is driving the car, and the next thing you know, you go into water and you start freaking out. Then the next thing, your car is a boat now, and you're looking around and you're by yourself, and the car and the person's no longer there. And you're like, what's going on? Why am I in an ocean now? And on a boat. And then all of a sudden the next thing is you're on a tower, and the tower is moving and swaying, and you're trying to stay on it and trying to get in, and go down the elevator or whatever it is. And it doesn't make sense. Well, why doesn't it make sense? Because it's fourth dimensional. It's abstract. To you, to your spirit, it makes total sense because you understand that. But to your third dimensional mind, you're like, what? What's going on here? I'm seeing pieces. I'm seeing fragments of what's going on. And because I only understand this, I'm going to take this piece and try to pair it up with this piece, and try to do this and this and this, and try to make this chaotic sense. I always suggest for people to try to really start to understand and really work with their dreams. Start a dream journal, start to record your dreams all the time, and start to try to work with your dreams so that your dreams become more chronological, that they become more fluent, that even if they jump around from place to place, you can understand them. So if you're having a water dream, a lot of people do that. That's emotion. And depending on if the water is smooth, if the water is choppy and crazy and there's tidal waves, that tells you about your emotional state. If you're on a boat and you're in water and the boat's rocking, there's all these waves and it's raining out, you are going through a big emotional problem right now that you're not dealing with. Your emotions, you're sad. You could be dealing with a lot of grief and sadness. And so you got to understand that. And houses are a very popular one too. That house is usually you. If you dream of your house, or you dream of your parents' house, normally it deals with you, or it deals with your parents if it's your parents' house, or it could deal, if you go to your friend's house, a specific friend's house, if you're in there, it could deal with the relationship you have with that person. Cars and airplanes are always about direction in life. Whether you're driving, if you're driving, you feel more like you have control in life. If you're not, if you're in the passenger, in the back seat, all of that means something. And so you could have this crazy dream of being attacked and someone coming after you with a knife, and you wake up, you're in a sweat and you're just blistering. Well, that's because you have a fear of failure. You're dealing with something that either people are actually verbally attacking you or attacking your character. Maybe you're got into a fight, or you're getting into a fight, or you're having a problem with someone and someone's always coming at you, or you just have, like I said, a fear of failure. It's a chaotic time. So these type of ideas, if you look at dreams, they could really tell you and help you what's going on. Don't be afraid of your dreams. Just because they're fourth dimensional, just because they are very abstract, they come more astral and ethereal, doesn't mean that they're goofy, that they're not meant to make sense. Remember, the fourth dimension has a lot more, it's more pliable, it's more flexible. There's a lot more that you can do. You can bend things and shape things and kind of move things around as will. The third dimension, you can't do that. And so we are very constricted here with our minds. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people use lucid dreaming or daydreaming, and I really want to get into lucid dreaming and daydreaming. I know we only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to kind of go through this a little fast, or maybe if whatever I don't get through, we'll do it on the next sessions. But lucid dreaming is a very wonderful thing for a lot of people. It is usually happens when in the late stage of REM sleep, and lucid dreaming is when people realize that they're dreaming. During a dream, sometimes I'll be like, wow, this seems so realistic. Wait a minute, Miss Raina, you're dreaming right now. Oh, I'm dreaming? Well, let's have fun with the dream. Let's do this. Let's change the dream, and let's control the dream to some extent. But let's control and let's see what we can do, because even psychologists and studies are showing this, that people can their brain, their physiological changes to the brain when people start going through lucid dreaming. When they start changing the dreams while they're lucid dreaming, there are physiological changes to the actual brain. And what's nice is what I think is amazing is during lucid dreaming, the prefrontal cortex, the frontal cortex, and the parietal cortex are all active during lucid dreaming. And they're saying that, and this is true, that there's a waking consciousness. So your consciousness is awake and you're aware of these dreams, and you can change them. If you don't know how to study your dreams, you're not going to become a lucid dreamer. If you can't analyze your dream, you got to be able to train yourself to recognize your dreams and to understand them and to start working with them before you can lucid dreaming. So one of the things that lucid dreaming as well does is a lot of times is people, when they're able to take control, they're able to change things in their waking life. And this is why, for me at least, lucid dreaming is one of the most important things. I don't suggest it for everybody, but when you're able to take control, if someone is driving a car recklessly and you're freaking out in a dream and you say, okay, I have control over this, get out of the way, let me take control, you can actually take control in your life. And how wonderful is that? Because it has been shown through studies and everything that lucid dreaming, people who lucid dream, can reduce nightmares, they can relieve stress and anxiety, PTSD, even sleep deprivation, and improve motor skills. And I think that's amazing. One of the issues, though, with lucid dreaming is that a lot of studies are showing that people with mental health challenges are at risk of issues, or running into issues. They're especially sleep deprivation, sleep problems. If you're one of those that have high anxiety, high depression, and you stay up for days, or maybe even bipolar, and you stay up for days and you have a hard time sleeping, lucid dreaming is really not the best thing for you, because that actually makes you have more sleeping problems. It actually sometimes intensifies the depression and anxiety, and it also creates a derealization. And derealization, for some of you who don't know, is what's real and what's not. People who are people who have DID, or people who have schizophrenia, especially schizophrenia, have a hard time with derealization, because sometimes you don't understand what's real and what's not. Sometimes the brain will play games on you, and it'll trigger something, and all of a sudden you can't understand the reality between what's not. And that's not something that you want to do. And also it shows that people who lucid dream that have mental health challenges also suffer with dissociation, and someone who has DID who suffers with dissociation as well. Well, that's a disconnection from who your surroundings, your consciousness, and things like that. So, all right, guys, that is it for tonight's show. And I wanted to get into daydreaming, and it just wasn't going to happen because we only have an hour. Well, I could really go on as long as I want, but I understand an hour is a lot for a lot of you guys, and who wants to look at this face for an hour? But all right, guys, maybe we'll do daydreaming on the next session show, because daydreaming is really, really helpful to a lot of people, and a lot of people think it's being lazy and all that good stuff, but we'll get into it on a session show or something. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you guys so much for being a part of it, and I hope that Caleb answered your questions if you had any. Remember to join us on our Facebook at facebook.com/Transcendental Transformation. YouTube is Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Sign up on our website, soulandspiritguide.com, and receive special, like, hidden shows, VIP access to to our website and special guest offers when we have guests. And yeah, always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.